So hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So welcome to the July Office Adding Community Call. And my name is Mingjia. And today we only have one topic for today, and it's about an overview of the Microsoft 365 App Compliance Program. And the two presenters of today is Leana, who is a senior project manager of Microsoft, and Sreekanth, who is a principal project manager of Microsoft. Okay, so let's go ahead to this topic, an overview of the Microsoft 365 App Compliance Program. So Liana, would you like to share a screen?
All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you again, Mingjia and team, for inviting myself and Sreekanth to speak about our program. My name is Leana Gerrard, and I work with the M365 App Compliance Program, as Mingji just said. And I want to take this opportunity to give just an overview of what our program is, what it is, the benefits, the processes, etc. And I also have my colleague Krishna on the call. She'll be monitoring the chat for any questions or comments you may have. But do feel free to stop me if you have any questions as we're going along. Slide. So the Microsoft 365 App Compliance Program was created as a way to increase trust and transparency between app developers and customers. As you guys are probably very aware, and you see on a daily basis, that many customers are just not enabling third-party applications because they don't know what data the app collects, where the data is stored, who has access to it, do they have the policies and procedures in place to safeguard it. So by creating the M365 App Compliance Program, we have given a route for developers to go through the rigorous audit to help you build out your security and compliance standards and to prove to customers that your data is safe. So we built our certification program around other well-known industry standards, such as ISO 27001, PCI DSS, SOC 2, and FedRAMP. We've essentially taken bits and pieces from each of those standards and put together our own compliance framework with the intent of safeguarding our customer and your customer's data. So once an app completes our entire program and the M365 certification, we publish information on our docs pages and admin portals in a consistent format to make it easy for customers to review the security and compliance posture of your application. If we're going to delve into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of what our program is, we have a few control families that we focus on. First is application security. So we require a penetration test and we review the penetration test. And we also review graph permissions and we make sure that your app is using or following the policy of least privilege. We also have operational security, which is anti-malware, patch management, incident response, network security, etc. You can read all the different controls here. We've got data handling, security, and privacy. So that's data encryption, data at rest, data retention. And we also have, like I said at the end, we built our certification around industry standards. So if you guys have already completed a SOC 2, an ISO, or PCI, you can submit that certification when you begin our certification, and we go through and mark controls in place where there's overlap. I'll pause here. Are there any questions thus far? Do we ask questions? There's a lot of people, so we're probably not asking questions mid-call, huh? So this slide here is the process and what to expect. Our program is fully integrated within Partner Center. We're located on the left nav bar under the app compliance section. When you first go there, you'll be asked to complete a publisher attestation. So this is where we ask about 70 to 80 questions that you typically get from customers on a regular basis. What data do you collect? What standards do you meet? What graph permissions does your app use? We do not validate any of the information at this point. We just publish it to our docs pages and make it publicly available for customers to review. Having an up-to-date publisher attestation is a requirement for all Teams apps, and the information that you provide will need to be reviewed by your team and resubmitted on a yearly basis. The next step here is we ask you to read our certification submission guide. This is a big guide. It's many pages. but we ask you to read it before you start the M365 certification. We go into detail on every control, what type of evidence we're looking for. We list out examples of the evidence that we accept. You can find this submission guide on our docs pages, and I think Krishna is going to put a link in the chat for that. The next bullet here is ACAT. I'm not going to go into any detail. My colleague Sreekanth is on the call, and he's going to talk a bit about ACAT after I finish. The next phase is you actually start the certification. So you submit an initial document submission is what we call it. And this is just basic questions. We're asking for like data flow diagram, architecture diagram, things that our assessors are going to use to understand what controls are in scope for your application. Once the initial document submission is approved, you'll begin the official certification process. You will be assigned an assessor. Our assessor team is based out of the UK. They're going to be your partner as you go through the process. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to them anytime and hop on calls with them, emails, etc. And then the certification is just a back and forth. So you're going to submit evidence. The assessor is going to review it, say this is good, this needs updated. And what we typically see is that for developers, it takes about 3 to 4 months to complete if you can dedicate a few hours to it a week. Once the certification is complete, you will be granted a M365 certification badge. That badge will be reflected in pretty much anywhere a customer is going to see your application. So App Source, Team Store, Microsoft Store, Teams Admin Portal, Microsoft Admin Portal, any touch point that a customer has with your application, it will be reflected that you are M365 certified. The certification is valid for 1 year, so you will need to renew the certification yearly. We have found that renewal goes a lot quicker. If you save the evidence you submitted the previous year, you'll know what was accepted and approved. You just need to go through and update documentation and get new screenshots, etc.
Meeting thing. Sorry.
Is there a question? No. Slide here. Like I mentioned before, so the screenshot here is App Source. There is a filter in App Source, Team Store, Teams Admin Portal, etc. I think Office stores as well also have a filter for M365 certified apps, so customers can easily filter and find.
Leana, you're muted.
I went mute. Oh no, sorry. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So the screenshot that you see here is App Source. There's a filter in most of the store fronts, App Source, Team Store, Teams Admin Portal, etc., Office Store, where customers can filter based on certification status to easily find your app. You will also be given a full marketing kit once you complete the certification. That way you can have the badge and the documentation, proving that you've completed the certification, and you can use that to promote in your marketing artifacts as well. What else do we got here? Oh, the certification is free. It is no cost to you. We also offer free penetration testing once you complete about 50% of our controls. We just want to make sure you're committed before we offer that as well. This is a good place. Let me give you a little Microsoft tangent here. MS Digital, which are the gatekeepers for our Microsoft tenant, now require all Office apps that are enabled in Microsoft's tenant to be M365 certified. This was a policy that was put in place December of last year. Their review process of an app before enabling in our tenant went from several months down to a few weeks. So they've sat down, MS Digital has, and they've looked at all our controls and our requirements to get certified. And they've said, yes, that meets our requirements. when we review an app. The one area that we are a bit weak in is privacy, which we are working on improving. So right now, Microsoft, the only review that they do for all those apps that are M365 certified is a small privacy review to enable them in our application. And this is the message that we're telling customers. So we're doing a big marketing push next month, and we're really focusing on educating customers, large organizations in particular, what the certification is, what it entails, and why they should trust those apps that have completed the M365 certification. We're not there yet, but our goal is to get to a place where companies will see the certification badge and they'll say, I feel confident that I can enable that application in my tenant with little to no review of that application. We believe that Microsoft has done their due diligence in their audit, and we feel comfortable just enabling it. So that's kind of what we're working towards.
Sorry, just for a clarification, the Microsoft App Compliance Program is the same as Microsoft certification, correct?
Correct.
Or is there a difference? Okay, thank you.
No difference. It's the compliance program, and the certification is just one part of it. So we've got the publisher attestation is one phase of our compliance program, and the M365 certification is another phase of our program.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Yep. That's pretty much my presentation. Again, we will put some links in the chat. I think we're sharing this deck after the call as well. Right. Are there any other questions while we're here, or should we just take questions at the end, Sreekanth?
Yeah, questions at the end is fine.
Okay.
I think Eric has a question. Maybe you want to pause.
I put it in the chat. So on the certification, will customers, admins, users be able to see any sort of report of the certification? I mean, I understand Microsoft's wanting us to trust the certification, but if it's just a badge and we can't read the report that was done, we just can't trust a symbol.
Yes. We are working on this right now, in fact. So we've got a partner, we're partnering with the Teams admin portal, and we're doing a pilot program right now where those apps which have completed the certification and apps which have not completed certification can go in and provide documentation and mark that documentation as either private, so only analysts can see it at Microsoft, public, we're going to publish that, or behind an NDA. So we're working on a process where when you go in and you complete the certification and you supply all the evidence for our certification, let's say your pen test, you don't want to share your full pen test, right? You just want to share the cover letter of your pen test. So you're going to submit the full pen test, you're going to mark that as private, you're going to submit just the cover letter, and you're going to mark that as public. We're then going to take that document that you marked as public and publish it in, to begin with, the Teams admin portal, but eventually it will also be Microsoft admin portal. So Microsoft's trying to be the middleman, the broker, essentially, from your information for the customer, so that the customer can find all the information that they need. And we are also working on a route for those apps that don't want to complete the full M365 certification. You can still complete a publisher attestation and then go into our portal in Partner Center and just upload documentation that you want to make public, right? So if you want to make your SOC 2 public, if you want to make the cover letter from your pen test public, or whatever other documentation public, you can go in, you can upload that. We won't review it for the certification. We're just going to take that documentation and publish it in, like I said, the Teams admin portal to begin with, and then other admin portals as we go.
So some feedback on that. This, if I'm a Fortune 500, Fortune 5000 business, and I'm looking at these documents that go under the cert, and I learned that they're just vendor provided. They're not provided by the certification framework. It doesn't really provide a lot of trust.
So if,
right? Does that make sense? I mean, it's like Amazon reviews. but
like, here's the converse of that. if that company is going to you directly and asking for this evidence, right, it's still vendor provided. And that's the general route that these large organizations are going. They're reaching out to you directly saying, I need this evidence in order to make an educated decision on your app, right? But for those apps that are M365 certified, it is, hey, we did vet this documentation, though, like it might not be the full penetration test that we're sharing publicly. The penetration test has been validated by Microsoft. We've reviewed it, right? So that you're kind of making my case for getting the M365 certification, right? So provide documentation.
I am. I'm making that case, but I'm just saying, if I'm on the side of the fence of a enterprise customer and I'm looking in the app source and I see the badge, but the relevant, detail behind the badge was vendor provided, not from the certification team, then I've not really gained anything. I still have to do all of the work with the vendor that I normally had to do. It didn't shorten my life cycle for approval.
I think our philosophy is something is better than nothing, right? So at least we have some documentation there that maybe it will be beneficial for some customer.
It was just a feedback point, not a critique, just a feedback point. So maybe something to think about, on the perspective of me as a, and a senior admin who has to look at this stuff to decide whether to proceed or not.
Totally.
And whether how much I trust that information. Okay.
Like I said, we're working on this program right now. So let me get your contact information and maybe we can pull you into the pilot program. And then you can provide feedback there.
Sure. I think the conversation, Leana, here is that for the certified apps, you're actually marking them as certified. You're marking them that Microsoft has reviewed that information, right? Like I think, Eric, hopefully that answers your question. For the apps which have gone through the whole life cycle, those data fields will say certified and they'll have a check mark next to it saying that, hey, Microsoft has validated this particular information, right?
Yep.
Maybe I don't know if it addresses the question that Eric was talking about or the concern that he had. I'm hoping it does.
Thank you, Sreekanth. Are there any other questions?
Leana, there's one from John in the chat.
Can you read it, Krishna? I can't see the chat.
Sure. He's saying in the recent past, it was extremely opaque and frustrating getting the verified symbol. We made available, but never published via the Azure store, a multi-tenant application because of the non-security hurdles involved. And there's also concerns with the lack of granularity in the Graph API permissioning.
We'll have to follow up on that question. The only reason I could think that verification was difficult is that you have it registered to a personal account, like a Gmail email address. And if it's something else, I'll have to do a little bit of research.
I think John has his hand up. Maybe you want to.
I could provide a little more clarity there if you'd like. Yeah, so what it boiled down to for getting the verified was you just needed to start out with the partner center, and that's what triggered this. Oh yeah, I remember going through this process. Needed to get the global tenant admin involved to even get anywhere, and that makes sense. But we wanted to create like a subtenant because, like, you know what, we have an entire team. There will be one or two trusted members to publish within the subtenant certain like add-in apps, and it just could never be right. Either they had to give me, for example, global tenant access, which I don't want. It's like, no, that's, and obviously they're not going to want to give me. You want to lock down the global tenant to just a few select folks, or these global tenants and admins will become the bottleneck. And that was just a point of frustration that we never anticipated working with Azure. It's like, wow, surely there must be an easier way here, but we could never find one. And I will say that it took over a year One of somebody else like spent probably like a couple months. They gave up. It's like, all right, I need to figure this out. Let me just go through the hurdles and see what it takes. And it still took me like 3-4 months. It was like this was not something I expected to be so difficult. And then there's another point here. I could tell you what the lack of granularity is with the Graph API, which is, and this is just one. They have a concept of drive item, but you can have read write or read access, but there is no way for me to say, hey, I want read access just the folders, but not necessarily read the file contents. And that's because, and this may have changed. It's been like a couple of months since I looked at this, but because everything is a drive item, like files, old folders, there is like no way to like kind of have that more fine-tuned read access. And that was, I don't even know who to like comment to on that one. It's like, hey, you may want to consider adding a little more fine-tuning here. So I hope that gives a little more flavor to my question. I'm not expecting an answer here, but just a heads up.
I know the right people to talk to. So I'll follow up after this call.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Sreekanth, are you up? Sreekanth, I have control. Do you want me to just continue having control?
I can share my screen because I
Okay.
need to play a video. So let's start with like what is ACAD, right? So Leana mentioned this briefly, the app compliance automation tool. So what is app compliance automation tool? I think the app compliance automation tool basically is a service in Azure that we have created to simplify your compliance journey and to automate some of those controls. So one of the big challenges which folks who've gone through the process may know is that collecting all the data takes time. So we know that it's something that's an issue for our developers, something that's an issue for even for our customers. So what we said is, how do we automate some of the data collection process, evidence collection process? Just in terms of like, and to put things in perspective, in terms of the number of controls, we have about 1,200 controls that are one key products, first party products need today. We offer about 60 odd controls of those for our certification that Leana talked about. And of those 30 odd controls, ACAD is automating. So we have about 50% of those are what we are automating today. And what we are going to see in the next few slides is what is the scope of the automation, what are the benefits of using the service, how do I use the service, and then you're going to see a quick product demo. I cannot see if someone has his hand up because I'm using only one screen, so please feel free to interrupt me at any point. Happy to take any questions. Maybe to set the stage, let me play a quick video, and then this will give you a quick flavor of what it is, and then we'll go from there. If you cannot hear the audio, please let me know. Leana or Krishna.
The Microsoft Compliance Assessment Toolkit enables third-party applications to get secure and compliant and to achieve the Microsoft 365 certification. To create a new compliance report for your application, navigate to the Reports tab, click on Create New Report, provide a new report name, select the appropriate resources corresponding to your application. You can select resources by using subscription, by filtering by the resource group, or using resource tags. Add all the resources applicable for your application and click on Create Report. Once the report has been successfully created, you will be navigated to the Reports tab, where you will select the appropriate report name to see the corresponding controls which have passed and failed. To fix the controls which have failed, navigate to the appropriate control, click on the control name, and click on the specified actions to see the remediation steps. If you have multiple reports, you can navigate to the Overview tab and see the status of all the resources across all the reports and the corresponding certification status. Thank you.
So I don't know how the audio came on that side. Leana, was that okay? Like, were you able to hear it? Okay.
It was quiet, but we could hear it.
Okay. I think we can, this video is available online, and I can also share a link to it. later. If anyone could not hear it, we can go over that. So I think one of the big questions is, when do I, as a developer, need app compliance automation tool? Right? So as a developer, what is the big advantage? What do I use it, and why how should I use it? So what we tell our developers is that if you want to automate your controls, if you want to expedite your process of getting certified, if you want continuous visibility into your application and to see whether your app is compliant, then you should use the app compliance automation tool. What is the scope? What do we cover? So if you look at the certification security controls, you can classify them into 3 different categories, and then there is an optional category around external compliance frameworks. We cover the operational and data security controls. We are not able to conduct penetration testing and things like that for you. You have to rely on other tools for that. But we are able to do things related to operational security, which is, for example, if you have a vulnerability scanning, if you have a vulnerability in your application, are you able to remediate that within a certain period that is defined? Are you applying your patches properly as a developer? Do you have the right malware, anti-malware, and right firewalls set up in place? Do you have event logging? Things like that. And from the data security standpoint, it is things like data encryption, data access, and data retention. These are the things we are able to kind of monitor using the app compliance automation tool. I'll pause here, see if there are any questions, and then move on. Any questions? Anyone has their hand up? Sorry. Okay. So, what does the automated compliance assessment? Now, I showed the demo, so you probably can see it. You saw how we're doing it, but at a very high level, the ACAT report, you can have this daily updated report on how many controls are there versus how many are actually passed. And then you can resolve those compliance failures by reading the remediation steps. So we actually provide clear guidelines on what you can do. ACAT as a solution is available for many of our developers, for all the developers who are on Azure today. We are running a private preview for multi-cloud customers. So we are actually multi-cloud developers who are building on AWS. We have a solution for them. If you are interested in that, please reach out to us, and we will add you to that preview. But right now, it is available for all the developers who are running their stack on Azure. What is the other benefit of like ACAT, right? We give you a PDF report. We give you a report of all the controls. You can use this in multiple ways. You can use this to actually collaborate internally within your organization. You can actually share it with your customers. So to the point that Eric was making, it's one way of actually me providing an evidence as a developer. What is Microsoft's document? So this could potentially be that. If you run the ACAT tool, you get a PDF report that you can download. You can share it with Microsoft analysts to get you the certification. You can actually share it with your customers to get you to provide them as an evidence saying, hey, I have gone through the process, and this is Microsoft's report that they have generated for some of the controls. You can share it internally with your organization. So it facilitates that collaboration with your internally and externally, and that is very valuable. Questions or comments on that? This slide shows how you actually takes what we were talking about earlier. Like, how do we integrate the process of running ACAT? ACAT is an Azure service. You're running it in Azure, but how do I take that and integrate that with the compliance process that Leana talked about? So that is what this particular slide talks about. When you actually go into Partner Center, like some of the folks here mentioned, you see a box which says, do you use the app compliance automation tool? You mark there as yes, and you can actually submit the specific report. You will have the list of all the reports automatically populated. You can select it from a drop down, or you can submit your PDF, right? In both those cases, the analyst will see your report and then they will give you credit for the controls that you have passed. One final benefit, what we have done is keeping your application compliant continuously. So we have actually provided, you can integrate this with your development pipeline. So we provided GitHub Actions, we provided APIs through which you can monitor, you can get a continuous compliance status. You can integrate that very easily with your CI/CD pipeline to basically get a daily information on which reports what is the current status. You can get alerts and notifications. And of course, this is a service on Azure, so you can set up event hooks, you can set up integration with event hubs. You can set up, you can even integrate it with things like Logic Apps and stuff like that. So it gives you all the power of running a cloud service that is focused on compliance and integrated that with your both your development pipeline, monitoring pipeline, and everything else to get you that holistic look into whether my application is compliant. Questions? We also have this functionality to add a webhook if you're interested in getting like your daily compliance status over a webhook, which some of our customers have done. That is something that is very useful for establishing getting that notification. So any questions on what I covered so far? If not, then I will cover the last slide and hand it off to Leana. So what are the benefits? Obviously, I think the benefits for an app builder, like the developer, is primarily that you get compliance. You can integrate that. You can create more secure compliant apps. You can get an accelerated path to certification. You can use this for Microsoft 365 certification. You can actually use it even for other certifications as you need, right? You can actually submit this report and for your other regulatory certifications. So it accelerates your journey to get compliant. It monitors as someone who's managing a big organization. I want to make sure that developers who are actually building my applications, if they're doing something that is not compliant, I get alerted of it sooner than later. That compliance is something that you can easily monitor. It benefits app consumers because your customers come to you with questions on provide me data, provide me evidence of you actually being compliant. So one way is you go through the certification process, which will get you there. Another way is to actually, as an interim step for that, once you start running ACAD, you will get there faster. And also you can share those PDFs that I was sharing with you, that I was showing you a few minutes ago. You can share that with your customers so that they can get visibility into your app's compliance status. And that will, of course, accelerate your app adoption, and it will further accelerate your app's growth within the customer. Right? What are the benefits to us as Microsoft? Why do we invest in this? We believe in the power of the ecosystem. We believe that a more secure, more vibrant ecosystem will ultimately benefit our overall product portfolio, will lead to more benefits for our Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And we want a more secure ecosystem. We want to provide our customers, both our partners and developers and our customers, the ability to get that end-to-end visibility on the compliance status. And that is why we build these tools. And that's why we invest in these tools to benefit the overall ecosystem. Yeah. I think that's all I had. Maybe I will stop sharing now and I'll pass the control back to Leana. Leana, do you want to take control on that? Or
I think
Yeah,
Mingjia.
I can take control.
Oh, Eric has a question.
Yeah, I put it in the chat, but I realized you probably didn't see it. So you're using the word compliance here, which evokes in my mind the idea of regulatory compliance. I don't think that's what you're talking about, right?
So when we use the word compliance, we mean that compliance, obviously regulatory compliance, if you break it down, it is a set of controls, right? When a SOC is a SOC or ISO is a set of controls. We are not giving you we are not saying that just because by running this tool you will get a SOC certifications. You still will have to work with external auditor. What we are saying is that using the app compliance automation tool, we are able to give visibility into set of those controls. And those controls, you can actually use that in the M365 certification process that Leana talked about. You can provide it. We have a team of security analysts who are actually reviewing it, and they are actually providing you that certification. So this app compliance automation tool will accelerate your journey there. And it also you can use it for your with your external auditors. So, I mean, if you break down the word compliance, it will and align that with app compliance automation tool. What we are doing is breaking it down into a set of controls and automating those, gathering the evidence collection for those controls.
Yep, understood. So the feedback on that, because it evokes the idea of regulatory compliance, I don't know if I'd use that word, or at least all by itself. It may need to have an adjective with it, because if I'm an enterprise admin, again, looking at that term, I might inadvertently think that you're certifying it for regulatory compliance for my need, and then I go down the wrong path and make a misstep because I have made a bad assumption about the word.
Okay. I think it's a fair feedback. We will take that note in our documentation, and we will clarify that it is a step in the right direction of getting compliant, but it is not a complete. It won't give you it won't replace an external auditor, or it won't replace.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, I mean, potentially just a quick comment on the compliance topic. I'm in the business of negotiating large-scale IT outsourcing agreements also, apart from being a software architect and developer. And so in our contract framework, we have a risk and compliance framework, for example. And also in the master services agreement, this always talks about compliance with laws, regulations, policies, and standards. Yeah, so compliance is not only regulatory compliance, but also compliance with other requirements. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, compliance is being used more broadly, and it's got a lot of applications beyond a few standards. And I think you see that the world of compliance is also evolving, and it is moving more and more to the left, where it is becoming more and more integrated with security. It is being more and more integrated with the developer life cycle quite a bit. So early on in the process, whereas what it was towards the right at the end of the app development, now it is much more integrated. So tools like this are much more needed, both for our developers to get early on in the process, to integrate that, and to get obviously monitor it on an ongoing basis.
Okay, so other questions? Nope. Okay. So if you still have questions, please feel free to put in the chat channel, and so we can also answer that in the chat channel. And also, we don't have much updates on the Office adding capabilities today, but if you do have any questions related to the Office adding capabilities, such as APIs and features and such things like that, please also feel free to put in the chat channel, and I can help charge to the product team, and the product team will get back to you later. Okay. So let's continue. And here is the Q&A session. And here we have 2 questions gathered from the forms link on the website. And one of the questions, I think, is about a cross-application scenario, and asking about how to communicate between 2 task panes. For example, one is Excel and one is Word. And here is an answer from the product team, is that you can try to use a Graph API to get access to Excel application data in your Word add-in. However, this doesn't work if you want to get access to a Word data from Excel. So you may consider to using a server to communicate between. Okay. And we have another question, is there a way to use Microsoft Playwright to test desktop add-ins? And the answer to this is that for our Office add-in testing, we recommend use this Office add-in mock library with JavaScript unit testing framework. So you can find more examples here. I'll paste this link in our chat channel later. So if you're new to Office add-ins, here are some resources you can check. And here is our link to our documentation and the quick starts of Outlook, Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, and also the script lab. You can try out the APIs of our recent updates and also our samples. You can check the examples and how the samples is written. And also check our Microsoft 365 developer program here. And also you can see more information about Office scripts. Right, so if you encounter an issue or you have some technical questions, product bugs, or feature requests, so please feel free to find these links so that you can go there and submit an issue, and our team will engage with you. So here are all the links you can check out. Right, and here we have some other community calls, and you can check more information about more resources, and so you can feel free to click on those links and see if that is useful to your add-in scenarios. And that is all the agenda for today's community call. And the recording of this community call will be uploaded in a couple of days to this YouTube channel. And this is a process that we have to go, and because we need to make some improvements and some edits to our recordings, so we cannot skip that. But we will try to upload this like as fast as possible. And also you can follow us on Twitter. And the next community call will be August 14th at also 7 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah, so I think that is all the content for today's community call. And thank you everyone for joining, and have a good rest of the day.